This week, with President Biden's $1.9 trillion economic relief bill set to clear the final hurdle. The House is expected to pass the revised stimulus package on Tuesday after the Senate passed its version over the weekend. Nearly 160 million households are expected to get the cash payment, according to White House estimates.
If you're hoping to track your stimulus payment on the IRS website, you're out of luck. The Get My Payment section is temporarily offline, and it says to check back in a few days. But some of you might have the money by then, according to White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki. We'll get a $2,800 check. There'll also be $1,400 tacked on for each dependent in the house. Hopefully the IRS tracker will be up and running soon. By the way, that tracker address...
And the Colorado Department of Revenue reports that over 2.4 million payments have been sent out, which many of them being sent earlier than expected. Till this moment, though, around 87% of the expected payments, everybody, have arrived to taxpayers, a little over 2 million of the ones already sent. The Colorado Taxpayers Bill of Rights, it requires the state to return taxpayers any leftover state revenue. Besides Colorado residents, those in the states of Maryland, Hawaii, and Alaska are receiving financial aid from the government, specifically now that prices are on the rise in almost every household. Eligible people in Alaska will receive a $3,400 check that includes a permanent fund, a one-time energy relief check. The governor of Alaska announced the exact amount of the payments, highlighting why the check is needed to help people in Alaska with impacts of high inflation on grocery bills in addition to high energy prices. He said for a family of 5, that's over $16,000, and it's going to help pay for a lot of things, and that's the biggest stimulus check you're ever going to see. This year's check, though, breaks it down into a dividend amount of $2,700 per person, plus another $600 for energy relief checks. Alaskans who filed paper applications for the dividend or requested paper checks have already begun to receive the money. The permanent fund is typically paid in October, but some people received it early in July. Not only that, but if you recently received a letter from the IRS, don't ignore it. The tax agency announced it in mid-October that it will begin sending out letters to more than 9 million people who qualify for thousands of dollars worth of stimulus tax credits. Those who received the letters were identified by the Treasury's Office of Tax Analysis. Typically, these are individuals who are not required to file their taxes since they have very low incomes. The IRS announced that certain Americans can claim the money fast. Taxpayers have until November to take advantage of the free file to claim the benefits, and the service available on the IRS website until November deadlines. The tax agency said that people who believe they are eligible for these benefits but haven't filed a tax return could do so on the 2021 Child Tax Credit website. Many Americans have received the stimulus payments and help them stay afloat. So hopefully President Biden doesn't rely on the IRS and wait for everybody to send us stimulus payments. Something needs to be done now.
Serve in the vanguard. They're tasked with making the area safe for other firefighters to operate. As one hotshot explained, we do not get to turn around and walk away. I am hopeful that Congress today does not turn around and walk away. This bill is a step to deal with the extraordinary consequences of climate change that is afflicting our country. Yes, it's the west of our country, but it's afflicting us all, in particular the west. Firefighter Morton knew his work was extremely dangerous, but he did it anyway because he believed in the importance of protecting our nation's forests and the communities they sustain. On September 17, 2020, backed into a corner by the encroaching flames, Morton laid down his life in defense of that conviction. It's a noble sacrifice, but one that no one should have to make. Much like Morton and his fellow hotshots, America cannot afford to turn around and walk away from the issue of wildfires. We must do everything we can to ensure that other brave firefighters do not have to give the full measure of their devotion, as Morton did. That's why I am proud to serve as co-chair of the Congressional Fire Service Caucus and to bring this wildfire response and drought resiliency bill to the floor today. Exacerbated, as we know, by the climate crisis, parts of the American West are experiencing their worst drought in 1,200 years. And this is fueling deadly and damaging wildfires affecting millions of Americans. These disasters, Madam Chair, tear through communities and inflict untold destruction and grief. This issue doesn't just affect.
I told you, heard me say before, it would be a matter of great discussion at my kitchen table when I was a kid growing up. It's affecting a lot of families. But we have released over 57,000 million barrels of oil, I should say. Us and the rest of the world are convinced to get involved. It's helped, but it's not been enough. We also find ourselves in a situation where we have food shortages. Food shortages because of Ukraine. There are literally millions of bushels of of grain being held up in Ukraine that would fundamentally impact positively on the market in terms of bringing down food prices across the board. So we're finding ourselves in a position where we're working very hard with American farmers and American agricultural products to provide more fertilizer and a whole range of things. This is going to be a haul. This is going to take some time. But in the meantime, it seems to me the best thing.
But a newly released poll shows that the Biden administration, in its approval rating, fell to 36%, marking its lowest point to date in a particular poll. The poll found Biden's approval rating fall 6 percentage points from a week earlier, and it dropped 76 to 72% among Democrats in the same span. Voters have given Biden poor marks on his handling of the economy, which aides argue is strong despite persisting concerns about inflation. When confronted with bad polls, the White House has insisted its agenda benefits the American people, and that officials must do a better job of communicating that. Mitt Romney and other Republican lawmakers introduced a bill that prevent President Biden from canceling student debt. The bill calls and cites inflation as one of the primary reasons to avoid loan forgiveness.
Sorry, I think if you look at our, maybe the closest economies and political systems would be the countries of Western Europe and Canada. Advanced economy countries like that, they're all having the highest inflation they've had in a very long time. Places like Germany, which is famously, inflation averse.
So monthly stimulus payments may be automatically deposited for you. Lawmakers across the nation have officially set up new relief programs. The more stimulus money you can receive right now would greatly help so many people, so I believe President Biden should actually get the job done and send out stimulus checks as soon as possible. Now, the nearly $1 trillion in federal relief sent to U.S. households through 3 stimulus checks is credited with reducing poverty and helping millions of families weather the crisis. But with the crisis still affecting millions of people in the nation, many lawmakers are deciding to take action on this with their own form of stimulus payments. States are tapping into their own stimulus funds to help specific residents, like low-income households of teachers, or even teachers, with direct aid reaching more millions of people this year. According to recent census survey data, about 1 in 4 households across the country struggled to pay the household expenses in the previous week. So in an effort to help Americans from any future recessions, lawmakers in the Senate and the White House are now considering passing automatic checks for the next time the economy takes another significant dip. The Economic Security Project has officially held a discussion with 50 staff members from the Senate Finance Committee on automatic stabilizers. This would tie the